Hi folks, I'm Athena from Learning Ecosystem, and today we are going to be talking about DNA's structure and function. So if you're unfamiliar with DNA or you just want a recap, you are in the right place. So our first question here is, what is DNA? Let me move my head out of the way. So what is DNA? So DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. And I know that can sound really intimidating, but literally you just sound it out. So again, DNA is an acronym for deoxyribonucleic acid. But that doesn't tell us a lot about what DNA actually is. So DNA is a double-stranded molecule. So it's got two different strands, and it's going to store genetic information of organisms. So in order to exist, organisms need some sort of genetic guide. And so DNA is often depicted as a twisted or helical structure. And that's actually what you're seeing in the background of this slide here, are those like twisty molecules, those twisty double-stranded DNA molecules. Can I go to my thing? Awesome. So where is DNA located? So organisms with, let me take a step back here. I'm moving my face all around. Okay. So organisms that are living, so basically every living thing, has DNA within their cells or within their bodies. So organisms that have membrane-bound organelles, these are called eukaryotes, store their DNA in their nucleus. Don't mind me, just moving my face around. Okay. So this is a eukaryotic cell here. Again, it has membrane-bound organelles. So if you've taken a science class and you've talked about the different organelles or cell organs, and you've talked about mitochondria and chloroplasts and vacuoles and all that fun stuff, those were in a eukaryotic cell. And so in a eukaryotic cell, the DNA is going to be stored, again, in that nucleus. So that's this guy here. And so the nucleus is kind of like that central information hub of a cell. So organisms that do not have a nucleus, these are called prokaryotes, have DNA just sort of throughout the cytoplasm. And just a friendly reminder, the cytoplasm is that like jelly stuff that fills up the cell. So in your room, you have air that fills the empty space. In a cell, there's jelly that fills the empty space. Okay, cool. Moving on. We'll see if we can. Come on, tech. All right, sweet. So here we have two different types of eukaryotic cells. Just a little refresher. We have animal cells on the left. Again, the nucleus has the DNA kind of all squigglied up in there. And on the right, we have a plant cell with that cell wall. And again, the nucleus has the DNA all squigglied up in there. So eukaryotic cells, animal cells, plant cells are eukaryotes, or are eukaryotic cells. So they've got the DNA in the nucleus. So our next question is, what is DNA made of? So DNA is composed of nucleotides. And a nucleotide has three main components. So this picture down here shows us a nucleotide. And again, three main components. So the first one is the phosphate group. So that is this little circle thing that's blue. The second thing is the sugar. In our case, well, in DNA's case, that is deoxyribose. Perhaps you've heard of sugars like glucose, sucrose, fructose. I don't know what kind of sugars you've heard of. And this is just another sugar, deoxyribose. You may have noticed all those sugars end in ose. So it's kind of a clue to look out for in the future, I suppose. And our third component is the nitrogenous base. You may also see this referred to as the nitrogen base. So again, a nucleotide has three pieces: a phosphate group, a sugar, and a nitrogenous base. Oh, come on, work with me. Sweet. So this is a different picture of a nucleotide, I guess. Again, it has our phosphate group, but in the chemical form, our 5-carbon sugar and our nitrogenous base. So 3 pieces to a nucleotide, a phosphate group, a pentose sugar, and a nitrogenous base. If you happen to speak Greek or know any Greek, penta or pente is 5. So if you see pentose or penta, pentagon, all means 5. So just a fun little tidbit there. Alrighty. So there are 4 nitrogenous bases in DNA. They are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. We have we can kind of categorize these nitrogenous bases either into purines or pyrimidines. The purines, well, let me take a step back. The pyrimidines are like just cyclical, like they just have this little round bit to them, while the purines have the round bit plus an extra little bit hanging off, I guess. So our purines are adenine and guanine, and our pyrimidines are thymine and cytosine. So let's take a step back. Again, there are 4 nitrogenous bases: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, or A, T, C, and G. So I'm throwing kind of a lot at you here pretty quick. But DNA, again, it's composed of nucleotides. So on this side, you can see that there's kind of this nucleotide happening right here, where we have a phosphate, a sugar, and then a nitrogenous base. So these nitrogenous bases are going to pair up via hydrogen bonds in order to form that double-stranded structure that we said we had. So this double-stranded structure can then sort of twist around itself, forming this shape called a double helix. We're going to talk more about this backbone here. So, let me move my head. Why? No. Cool. So this sugar phosphate backbone is the ribbon portion of the DNA. So again, the portion of DNA that looks like a ribbon is known as the backbone. And the backbone is formed by these alternating sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphates, right? And again, ask yourself, what is this piece here? This piece is the nitrogenous base, or that nitrogen base. And again, there are 4 nitrogen bases: adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine in DNA. So we've got this fun little ribbony guy. Cool. So this is just another picture sort of showing us DNA structure. So all the way on the left, we have our DNA double helix, the 2 strands that are sort of twisting around each other. In the middle here, we have our complementary base pairing structure. So it shows that we have this sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, that backbone. But then it also shows these bases linking up in the middle. So those 2 strands actually connecting. All the way on the right, we have a different way of showing DNA. This is called the ladder configuration. So we've got, again, our backbone here, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate. And we have our nucleotides in the middle connecting with our nitrogenous bases in the middle, connecting via a hydrogen bond. So this right here is one nucleotide, right? Because one nucleotide has a phosphate group, a sugar, and a nitrogenous base. Hoping that you're with me so far. So how does DNA actually work? Move my head again. So DNA stores genetic information similar to how a recipe book is going to store recipes. So DNA stores this genetic information in the form of nitrogenous base sequences. So this code is then later used to create proteins. You can kind of think of this like a recipe book. You can think of it like a if you're into computer coding, maybe you can think of it like that. You can think of it like a blueprint, maybe like an instruction manual for putting something together. But DNA has those adenines, thymines, cytosines, and guanines sort of lined up as a code. And then that code is then later read and used to produce an organism or proteins in that organism. So it's just storing the instructions for what to actually do. And again, if we think about, okay, where is DNA located? It's located in the nucleus of the cell. And maybe we remember that the nucleus is like that central hub or the office, or that's where the CEO or the brain of the cell is. So if we think of DNA being in the nucleus, we can remind ourselves, okay, well, what is the nucleus even doing? That's like the brain or the commander of the cell. So it has to have the instructions there in order to tell everyone else what to do, right? So we have our instructions in the form of DNA in that nucleus. And again, DNA is storing those instructions in these, in a code of nitrogenous bases. Oh, moving myself again. There we go. So here are our nitrogenous base pairing rules. So you may have noticed that DNA is double-stranded. Hopefully we've noticed that at this point. And there is a very specific way that DNA actually links to each other. So adenine will pair with thymine, or A's pair with T's, and guanine will pair with cytosine, C's pair with G's. And so this picture down here kind of depicts that for us. So we have our twisty helicalness, and then it shows adenine with thymine, thymine with adenine, guanine with cytosine, adenine with thymine, T with A, C with G, T with A, C with G, G with C, T with A, and you get the idea, right? This is going to remain true always. I don't know what a quizzes, tests, whatever, while you're watching this, but I would recommend that you memorize this part because it comes up a lot in different assessments throughout school. The fact that adenine pairs with thymine and cytosine pairs with guanine. So just kind of put that in your brain somewhere. Here's another fun picture for us. Nothing crazy. Well, maybe it is something crazy. I don't know. So on the right, we have our base pairs linking together. And on the left, we actually have the chemical structure of that. So if you've taken chemistry or you're hoping to take chemistry, this may be kind of interesting to you. So we have, I'll just give you a second to look at it. I'm not going to give you a crash course chemistry thing right now. So just take a sec, pause the video if you want to. All right, moving on. So let's actually practice with this base pairing business. So we have CGA. We're going to do this first the ones that are kind of black here together first. So CGA. What does C pair with? What does G pair with? And then what does A pair with? Okay, so that'll give us our first sequence, right? GCT. Next, we have GCT. So what are we going to have in our complementary strand of DNA? CGA. Next, we have AGA. So what does A pair with? What does G pair with? What does A pair with? TCT. Next, we have GAA. So G pairs with, A pairs with, and then A pairs with what? Cool. We have CTT. And then lastly, we have TCG. So T pairs with, and then C and G. Ta-da! You've done it. Hopefully this video gave you a pretty brief or decent overview and understanding of DNA's structure and function. If this was helpful to you, please leave a comment. If there's something that I missed that you want me to incorporate later or redo this video and incorporate it then, please let me know. Alrighty, see you next time.